Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District Board Meeting Monday, January 8th, 2024. Happy New Year. Good to see folks in person and online. I am Edie Granning, and I'm going to run through the agenda. We will have a roll call, community comments. We'll have a budget information discussion. We've talked about most of it already, so this will be hopefully maybe quick. We'll talk about our warning and why we're not approving it tonight. And then we have a monitoring report, asset protection. After that, we have some committee reports and approving our previous meeting minutes, and just a couple quick other business items that are, anybody have anything to add or track or, okay, then we're ready to get started. Hello, chat. Oops. Yes, it's close. So hopefully it's better for folks recording and online, they can hear us better. So, Pat, if you would do a roll call for us, that would be fantastic.
For sure. Tara Arneson.
Present.
Kevin Campbell.
Just barely here.
Heather Chadwick.
Here.
Allison Conant.
Here.
Gail Conley.
Here.
Eric Gildemeister. Edie Grinning.
Here.
Diane Kirsten Glipman.
Here.
Susan Lillick.
She's joining right now.
That's perfect timing.
Yeah.
Ethan Maurer.
Let's go Huskies.
Stuart Morrigeau.
Is there a game today?
What are we talking about?
Stuart is here. Echo, go Huskies.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Katie Nelson.
Here.
Lisa Pollock.
Here.
Andrew Bond.
Andrew's in an airport and it's going to call in.
Okay, thank you. And then we have student reps Abby O'Malley
Here.
and Gracie Betsy.
Here.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you. Moving to community comments. Seeing anyone? Is there any? Are there any? Okay. All right, budget information. I'm going to turn it over to John and Nicole to talk about budget. Should I do a brief? We would normally be approving the budget tonight after a seconded motion from the Finance Committee. We have postponed the Finance Committee meeting till Thursday because there are some legislative meetings tomorrow that may or may not, likely won't, but could make changes to the implementation of Act 127. So we'll have an indication as to whether that's going to happen end of day tomorrow, probably, and then we'll know what's going on. And so we didn't want to approve it and then have to come back and make changes. So that's why we will have a special meeting next week to approve the warning, which would include finalized budget. Did we finalize the date for the meeting next week?
With the people that we have, it would be Monday, either 5:30 or 6. Most people, almost everybody could do that. So it'll be one of those times. We'll get that out this week.
Okay.
All right. So I'll just, we'll.
For a brief budget.
Yes, yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, and at the state level with the budget. You know, Act 127 has created, I think, some confusion for people, and the data comparisons from the restated this year to model Act 127, and next year the data sets are not the same. So there's been, you know, a lot of conversation about that, as well as just the significant fluctuation in the common level of appraisal, depending on what your status is with reappraisal. So, yes.
Just can I ask a quick question? Because I just was thinking about this. Is it different for you because we're 5 towns with 5 different sort of CLAs versus like South Burlington or Burlington? That's one town that is assessing to its Oh,
Very different, because it's wild swings.
Right.
We have a slide tonight that you probably, I think it's eye-popping personally. But it just really shows that, you know, where we're at right now and just how it can be so different from one town to another. So, which creates, you know, obviously some challenges in trying to communicate this effectively to people. And that's been one of the challenges for the last several years. I'd say it's even worse this year. So just moving into the agenda, we have our budget summary. Nothing has changed. So we really haven't changed anything from what we shared with you in December. And the detail, we haven't changed anything either. So what we thought we would do is if you have questions about anything in the summary or the detail, we would answer them. And if not, we will, you know, a lot of the information is right in the presentation. So I'm not gonna, trying not to stop on things too much that we've already talked about, okay? Because a lot of these will be redundant, but we do have some new pretty important slides, I think. So start with, if you haven't taken a look at our budget development page, Mary's done a great job of reorganizing it. I think it's like so much better. If you get a chance to check it out. Jeff. So these are the challenges. You know, I think you know what they are. Our weighted pupil count is in the final stages, but it's not final. So it's, and our revenue really I think our estimates are pretty good, but they're still estimates, and we won't know about the school funding formula till May, maybe June. And so I won't hit on these, but you know, insurance, inflation, facilities, and then Act 127, you know, that has created, you know, some significant challenges for the budget process. And then Act 127, again, I've gone over this overview several times with folks. We are a disadvantaged district, and, you know, at least in the near term, it would be next to impossible for us not to be in that 5% tax cap, which has some benefits, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the presentation. What's going to be challenging, and I shared this briefly with you in the last couple of meetings, but there's no new money, and you're going to have some districts that want to get in that 5% cap, so they potentially could add money to their budget, because if you don't get the 5% cap the first year, you don't get it the next 4. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if you don't get it, you're done. So you know, you're going to have some districts, I suspect, that are going to want to get in that cap in case something happens and they're close to it. So they're going to be adding money to their budget. And then you're going to have the advantage districts who are going to have more tax capacity than a disadvantaged district. Theoretically, they're going to be spending more money on those higher weighted students. And then you're going to have districts that are going to hit that cap and may have some room with that 10% ed spending per pupil. So they're going to add some one-time costs that aren't reoccurring, and that all is going to do what? Anybody want to take a guess? It's going to drive up ed spending for everybody. Now, we're capped. Unless they change the law, whatever they do to the funding formula, and we have checked this out over and over and over again, because we want to know and make sure we're capped. We're going to be, you know, unless the law changes, we're going to have a 5% cap, regardless of what they do with the base yield amount.
That last part about unless the law changes.
So I think that's a good
The law could change.
Theoretically, it will be very challenging. I mean, I would say incredibly challenging. We've tried to press this as well, probably more than anyone, and Edie has really helped us, saying, look, if you're going to change this, we need to know. There's some big problems, I would say, with the ed funding system this year. There's going to be some incredible pressure on that funding formula. So what could happen is the school districts that aren't capped, that are advantaged, are probably gonna have to pick up a bigger share of the cost. So it could change theoretically, I guess. I think it would be, they would have a big problem with that right now. Because so many of us have to have our stuff, we literally need to approve our budget in the next 7 days. Or we can't get the stuff done we need to. Our enrollment is flat. So it's static. We're not gaining, you know, this could be plus or minus 10, right? So it's flat. So our enrollment is not dropping. And so, you know, that's part of why we're not strongly recommending any reduction in FTEs. We need every person we have in the buildings right now. And we have added 2 positions, which we'll talk a little bit about, and which we have shared with you already.
So as John has already shared, this is a slide that you've seen a few times already, so we won't spend too much time on it. The top line is that one-time, 1-year facilities money that we've added. You know about the 16.4 increase in health insurance, some slight decrease in debt service. Nothing changed here since the last time we presented that slide. John just mentioned the 2 personnel additions this year. We absorbed 2 currently ESSER funded positions into the budget this year, behavioral support and intervention positions.
So we didn't really add them. We're just, the funding is a different source.
They're currently, yeah,
Non-tax. We're there, we have them right now. We desperately need them. I'm not even exaggerating. We really need these people.
And it's not an unusual thing, right? Sometimes we have Title I money and we still need the position whether we have the money or not. Sometimes we have a grant and we still need the position whether we have the grant or not. We're always looking for ways to fund extra supports for our students.
That's how we added the 3rd preschool at Richmond. We had a 3-year grant that went down. And so it was fully funded, partially funded, and then a 3rd, and then we picked up the cost. So that's a good example, Edie. Thank you.
no change to the slide from the last time we presented it. This is just the 3-year comparison of total expenditure.
We tried to make the 18.72 not look so big.
By changing the Y scale.
Yeah, we
Some finagle.
you know, we tried.
Longer than.
Yes.
Can go to the next one. Again, no change here from the last time you saw it. Again, keep in mind that the 23 and 24 tax rates decreased due to some surplus money that the state had in the ed fund, and 25 does represent the tax rate with the 5% cap. And with that said, you'll see that the 25 tax rate is still below the tax rate in 23, even with that ed surplus money. So we'll go to the next one. So we talked about this one in the last meeting. I'm happy to go through it again. So 24 is restated for Act 127. So that second line, the estimated long-term weighted ADM, that is restated for under Act 127 numbers. The 25 tax rate here in green, you'll notice that it is reflective of the 5% cap. So without the cap, we would be at like a 1.5934 tax rate. If you look at the ed spending per pupil on the right-hand side that I have highlighted in the green, that 8.97%, if that was 10% or greater, we would be subject to the review committee. So that's one positive of our long-term weighted ADM change. is that we will not be subject to the review committee, which is great. One more thing that we can avoid. And just note the significant decrease in the yield, and that's a product of the, the long-term weighted pupils no longer being equalized. That is driving the yield down significantly in 25. Any questions on this one? Okay. Go to the next one.
What did you say the uncapped tax rate would be?
1.5934. So this, we went over it last time also, I just think is a good visual of the impact of the 5% cap to Mount Mansfield. So the graphic at the top is what we would need to do to keep the homestead tax rate the exact same in 25 as it was in 24. So, building in the property yield this year of 9,400, updating our long-term weighted ADM, we would have to decrease budgeted expenditures by 4.4 million just to maintain the same tax rate, which is, when we look at the average cost of an MMUUSD employee at about 75,000, it's 59 FTEs that we would need to cut just to maintain the same tax rate. And just wouldn't be possible to, meet the needs of students and maintain our quality standards. And it's
I just want to be really clear, 75,000 is not an average salary.
correct.
It's a salary, it's benefits, it's taxes, it's contributions to retirement. It's the
Exactly.
cost, total cost. It's
Yes.
not-
And one really important thing to note here is that if those Medicaid eligible pupils were not added to our weights in 25, that's what's helping to drive up our long-term weighted ADM in 25. But if those weren't added in 25 and we were really looking at a more comparable 24 and 25 long-term weighted ADM, that figure, the 4.4 would really be closer to 8.145 million or 109 positions.
What's the total number of staff in the district? Or guesstimate?
5, with support staff, like 550, 560.
So, yeah, so
Yeah,
Yeah, and those are, some are part-time, and so the FTEs would be probably lower, but I was thinking a big chunk. We wouldn't be able to run our schools.
right.
We wouldn't keep,
Those will be the things we wait.
well, and I mean, I think the way that the law is set up right now, again, it could change if cutting things does not really make a lot of sense. I think you're gonna wanna have levers down the road to be able to pull. But then in the first couple of years, it's a big deal.
And not to critique the chart, because I think it checks the box on what some of our questions were, but I have the question, well, what's the number to get just under 5%?
This year,
Yeah, like
And-
this would be flat, and we're never flat. The budget's, right, there's always a 3 to 5% increase. So if we said we wanted to have only a 4%,
increase in
increase
tax rate.
in tax rate, is it like half the 4 million?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can easily tell you because I have my budget workbook here. So
We would still need to cut.
We'll come back.
yeah,
Still need to
yeah,
cut
I can give you
millions
that
of
number.
dollars
Oh, yes.
just to get under the 5% cap.
Yeah,
I think that's one.
And it
Well,
doesn't
okay.
benefit our district or our taxpayers.
Correct.
And it harms our school and our students.
Good. Okay, so this chart we added to just model the effect of that one-time facilities money on our budget, on our estimated tax rate. So the first column there on the left is what our budget would look like without the additional 6 million in one-time facilities money, and then with the added facilities money. And regardless of what we do, we're still coming out to the same capped 5% tax rate. So the facilities money really has no impact on whether we meet or hit that cap or not.
And it doesn't impact going over that 10%.
Correct. Correct.
So where's that money coming from?
The ed fund, somebody's gonna pay for it. I just wanna be clear. Somebody's paying for it.
I mean, the state is paying for it.
State is paying for it, but we're not, we're capped. So,
More
but,
tourists, get more tourists here.
Get more snow.
so, but it will have come from somewhere.
Potentially the districts that are not
Disadvantaged.
disadvantaged.
Yes, anybody that is capped is capped. If they don't go over that 10%,
Unless there's a new revenue source.
unless there's new revenue or they change the law, right? So, I mean, I think it is a real advantage this year for MMU
Being
under the
disadvantaged.
law.
Ironically, yes.
We're just trying to make lemonade out of lemons, turn lemons into lemonade. What is it?
Hard lemonade.
That one. Kids are selling.
This is a good one. I like.
This one it feels pretty straightforward, but any questions? That was a good question, Ethan, and thank you for making that point. No,
It's just hard.
no
to
impact to the
process.
community.
I've been talking about Nicole about this for every day probably. And, there's some big problems. That's what I'm gonna share with, just being completely honest. There's some big problems with the ed funding formula right now. And when we keep going, you're gonna see it gets a little, not bleaker for us, but the big picture is bleaker.
I mean, as the years go on down the road, or?
Well, when you see like the variances with the CLA, I mean, that's where things are really out of whack.
And the, two questions, 5.5 million compared to on the budget, 5.675.
So, the 5.675 would be the increase from last year. Our facilities money was 325.
Okay.
This year we decided to increase it to 500,000. And so this
Plus.
is going above that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the estimated property yield, between the two columns, is intentionally the same value.
Yes, because the yield, it was set in the December 1st letter. That will be the same regardless.
Okay.
Right now, until it possibly changes again.
They said that they're gonna,
Yeah, okay, because
Yeah.
it's the same year. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Can go. Okay, CLA. So, we'll take this one slowly. Common level of appraisal. So on the left-hand column, you will see the 5 towns in our district. And we thought it was important to add in blue the last year of reappraisal, which will make some of these numbers make a bit more sense as we go through. So we have a wide range in our CLA, anywhere from 66% to 104%.
I'm gonna back up just for a
Yeah.
second because I want this meeting to go longer. Really sorry. But just for anybody who doesn't know, the common level of appraisal is a way that the state tries to make sure that every property in the state is paying the same value of taxes for their property across the, so that's the formula that the state is using to equalize that payment in taxes. And it doesn't look like it's the same, but if your house was recently reappraised, most likely, well, it's reassessed. If your house was reassessed recently, then the value is as close to actual value as it could be. So higher or lower, it's close to. And if it was a long time ago, it's less close. This does not take into account the people who recently bought a house because their assessment is based on that purchase. But for the people who haven't moved recently, this works for that. So this is designed to be the most fair. And anytime you want things to be fair, it's more complicated.
Just one piece, I think, just that's important. someone who bought their house recently, let's say in Huntington or Jericho, which has a
It's been a
out of
while.
date,
Yeah.
right? They're paying generally fair market value. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the assessed value of the property. So those are two very different things.
Yeah.
And we were, not to complicate things, hopefully this doesn't, but so if your home is reassessed, right? It may have gone up in value $300,000. So you're paying, your tax rate is lower. Your tax rate is lower and the cost per 100,000 is less, but your house is worth more.
Right.
So, that's how they try to equalize it, which is really challenging for people to understand. That's kind of a leap.
So what matters the most is when you get your tax bill and the amount of change year on year should be roughly the same for everybody in our district. And this chart is designed to make that work. Like that.
I really like the addition of the years, because then you
Yeah.
can see the years and the percentages and how they correlate, and then it's kind of like, okay, I get it now.
So the second column, estimated homestead with CLA applied. So that calculation is taking the homestead tax rate that we calculate and dividing it by the CLA percentage. So that is the homestead tax rate for each of the individual towns. And then if you focus on the percentage change and the dollar change year over year, you can see quite the fluctuation, between just pointing out highest and lowest, Jericho and Richmond, for example, as Richmond and Bolton were towns that were reassessed in 2023. And I think it's important also to note that I'm 95% confident in saying that I know at least Jericho, but many of these towns are due for reappraisal. Because once CLA hits, correct me if I'm wrong, 80% or lower, towns are subject to reappraisal. There's just such a demand that the state can't keep up with.
Huntington is starting a 2-year process.
Yeah, can't keep up with that. So unfortunately, CLAs are further affected.
And we are looking at statewide reassessment, but it's not there yet.
Mhm.
They're going to talk about that tomorrow, one of the committees.
Would be fine, just district-wide reappraisals.
Yeah, that'd be
Right.
great.
And then I think we offered this last year too, but the column on the right just shows, the dollar impact of that change per 100,000 property value. So
So a $300,000 house in Huntington is gonna be 3 times 273, would be in theory the potential increase on the yearly tax bill.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
You hit it. It's
That's
really,
the messaging that we.
Oh, yeah.
And back to your point of, is it more difficult for a district like ours with 5 towns than a district like South Burlington? Because now we're presenting a budget to 5 different towns who are impacted significantly different. So, yeah, the messaging is hard. Any questions on that? There's another one that gets a little bit further into this next, but if anyone has questions on this, we can stay.
I'm just curious, so like Bolton, which is in parentheses, so I'm assuming that's a negative 381. Does that mean that their tax rate is going to reduce? Because I guess I'm confused about like grand list, right? The total amount that a town raises shouldn't change. Even what you said, like a house is worth more in theory. You're being taxed at that higher rate, even though your rate of taxation is lower, you're still in theory paying the same amount, aren't you? Isn't that the?
Yeah.
yes,
idea? So
that's
why
the way
would-
it's supposed to work.
Right, but that's not how it's necessarily.
It's,
Yeah, so you still have the $1.22 tax rate, right? It's the change from and now it's a house that's valued at another $200,000 more.
Mhm.
So it's the 121 times the 200,000 should give you roughly the same. Like you're still gonna probably have an increase in your taxes because we always have some, but it's not, it wouldn't be like if it was 1.9 and it was $200,000 more, that would be a much bigger increase in taxes year on year.
But a house that, like you said, a house in Jericho that's, you know, fair market value, the same as yours, you're gonna be paying the same.
I think what's unique, in our situation this year is Bolton and Richmond, were both reappraised this year. So the value of your house has changed from last year to this year, and it's not represented in that percentage reduction.
Right.
It will be next year.
It will be next year, but this year, you know, you're not getting a 23.85% reduction because your house value probably just went up 30% to offset that.
That's right.
That's what, yes, thank you, Kevin. Cause I worry about like that town to town struggle. You're suddenly paying less than we are. And so that's, but it doesn't sound like that's necessarily gonna be the case. We're all gonna see the increase.
And everybody in every district.
We'll have a common level of confusion.
Yep, that's a good
CLC,
term,
huh?
common level of confusion.
You should call that.
So we wanted to add this slide. I think it's pretty eye-opening. When you look at the increase, decrease from prior year, carving it out to show what is really due to the budgeted 5% tax rate increase and what is due to CLA. So of the, $473 decrease to the $273 increase, $60.30 is what's related to the district's homestead tax rate. The rest is driven by CLA.
That maybe is the message. It's really not our.
It is, because we're driving costs, right? And the tax base is changing, but every year, the value of our houses are increasing. Right? In Vermont, the value of your house never goes down. It's either flat or goes up. COVID went up really quickly. We benefited by that. We were able to keep the tax rate low. Those two dips that we had in the last 2 years in the middle of COVID were because of a couple factors, but one factor was the CLA, because houses were selling for a huge amount of money. So, I don't know if this really, I don't know if the point sits with me, because your tax bill's going up because spending is going up and the value of your house is going up. But if your school budgets weren't going up, you would only be having to spend or pay the same amount of taxes. It's all going to the ed fund. You would just see your tax rate come down. So it's all due to school spending.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily school, it's statewide school spending and the shift in the way that the formula is. So in terms of our decision-making product, we're not adding 18% school spending because of adding 6 full-time teachers or building a new building or whatever that case may be. It is because of the overall impact of Act 127 that our costs that we are controlling by developing a budget is a very small piece of that increase. I think it's, again, it's messaging.
Well, and the other piece is when we repurposed the ID school and stopped renting space for our central office and really got much more efficient, it was an impact. Our towns didn't get a tax break because of that, right? And that, I think, is the indicator that shows the most how what we do with our budget does not impact our taxpayers directly, right? Like that one-to-one impact is just not there. So, and just to push back, there was the surplus in the ed fund that was returned to taxpayers and not set aside for PCBs or building construction or anything else. Drove down the rate and makes this change feel much bigger than it should.
Because we're coming out of that.
Because we're coming out of that. So I think there are a lot of pieces here that set
Yeah,
us up.
and they don't all get This
Talk about
requires
the chart.
It's not clear, it's not easy.
Mhm.
If you're not living this and breathing this and not sleeping because of this, it's really hard to understand.
And
It
even
is.
then, it can still be hard to
Yeah.
understand.
Well, I think too that like we also need to, I think we're pretty clear about it, but we're also not spending excessively. It's like there's
Right.
a lot of these, the cost drivers that are increasing our budget are out of our control. Health insurance and contracts and stuff like that, where it's like we have no say in it. Like if that stuff goes up, we have to pay more for it.
Correct.
It's not like we're putting in a swimming pool or like flying our, it's just like, and I just think that we just need to be, push that even more. It's like we don't spend frivolously in our districts, like.
And we still have the same amount of students to educate.
Yeah.
Not that we lost any students. Just being counted differently.
So capital project. So right before COVID hit, we did a pretty big assessment. We had an engineer come in and they did an assessment of our HVAC services. So we have a pretty good list of, upgrades, with a real serious bend towards efficiency. So we added that in just so you could know that we do have the assessment, we have the projects that we can do. It was done trying to be as efficient as possible, and as timely, up to date, and 21st century as you can get. And then we just had some other ones. I like to stand up, so it's hard to.
What's the freezer?
We have a freezer at Browns River that it's like coming off the wall a little because of the frost. So we need a new one. Oh, yeah.
Walk-in freezer.
Yeah, it's walk-in freezer. Yeah. Yep.
Large.
We redid the one at Camel's Hump, and this one has to be done too.
Kevin, here's your fuel tank removal.
Right. But we're not replacing it with an underground tank. I'm not kidding.
What about the boiler replacements? Maybe like the one at Brewster Pierce that I hear
It's not
so
a boiler.
much.
No. We have no, I mean, that's all we have in here. So just to let you know, Smiley has 2 boilers. One is from 1965, runs great. It does. It runs better than the newer one, but it's on borrowed time. So we really need, it's literally 1965. So we got to replace that. And then the boilers at Richmond, those are natural gas and were replaced a few years ago, but the water creates pinholes in them, and they're deteriorating.
Yeah.
So so we have to replace them.
This is hard. There's a lot.
In the, sorry, Jen, in
Oh,
the
sorry.
assessment protection, there was a lot of talk about the roof in this building. That's not on this list though. Is that being done this year?
No, we did the one at Browns River. It was the one at Browns River
It was
that
Browns?
had the problem.
This year. Okay. I'm misremembering them.
We did that this summer. That one got replaced.
Thank you.
And then Jericho, we have some classrooms that we need we want to replace some of the tile or carpet. And when you disturb asbestos, any materials, you got to do an abatement. And so we have some classrooms we want to finish up over there. Now, schools, I say this because people, don't necessarily know this. There are many schools in Vermont that have some asbestos tiles because they were built. They have to have an asbestos plan. All of our schools have an asbestos plan that is relooked at and redone. And, but when you disturb any of those materials, you need to do an abatement. So we're trying to clean that up and then we don't have to worry about it again. Does that make sense? We have 2 pretty significant exhaust fans that are, have aged out. They work, but this school and at Browns River that we want to replace. Fuel tank is old, so we want to either abandon that or take it right out. There are some, but it still costs money. Smiley Playground, we need a new playground. Smiley, and then we have some other upgrades, particularly I think there's one piece of equipment at Jericho we want to upgrade it as well, but not the whole thing. And then UID, I think there's a piece of equipment too. So, and that stuff is so expensive. I mean, it's wild. And that equals six million.
The fuel tank removal is there. There was talk about replacing an underground tank.
No, we're not going to replace the underground tank. There's no really a good reason to, because we may be able to abandon it. You know, we do it by all the standards, but
Sure.
if we don't have to dig it up and take it out, we really don't want to.
What fills that?
So we do an above ground tank, that we would probably, a vendor would own. And then if we do have, you know, if we have actively been trying to get grants for electric buses. And we just haven't been able to. You know, Barry got the grant and they have 2 electric buses. We have another one going in January. And so, you know, we don't want an underground tank because hopefully we will be transitioning to electric buses, you know, gradually over the technology keeps improving. And if we get a little bit of help with the infrastructure, I think we could pull it off. But there'll be more and more grants. I think we got a good chance this time.
But with those, that gets approved, and then we have the PCB testing. With the PCB testing results, delay those projects.
Yes, we'd have to
Kind of a
mitigate those.
contingent.
Yeah, if we have like, you know, if we gotta build a new gym,
Or two.
or, yeah, we would, or some serious mitigation, you know, that's what we would,
Maybe a pending.
pending, you know, PCB radon.
Yeah.
We still need to do the radon testing too. And I don't know what those results are gonna come out, but, but if that mitigation costs money. And when you start talking about cement and chewing up cement, it's pricey fast.
Stormwater wasn't on there
It
either.
was 140.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stormwater and radon, we're all.
So we're hoping, we're in the first round of these, a shared expense. And so they're saying 90-10 right now. So this is for a couple of projects, that we could do, next year, particularly the one here at Richmond and Camel's Hump, because we have an approved plan. That's just, what's that?
They're the both schools.
Yes, yep, so we'll, that was in my other business, thing, but, yes, both places got tested. I'll let you know what the results are. And then, I mean, I'm not gonna go through these, but we have a lot of investments in there. And they're all tied to our ends and our priorities. So, that's it. We had a lot of
So
questions.
folks online, people here have been just tossing out questions. If you have a question, please just get my attention. I am looking at you on my screen and on the big screen. Okay,
So I said no questions.
no question.
I really appreciate the restating, the budget. It just makes it really clear in there.
Right, a lot of work, thanks to Nicole. I mean, this has been I would say, without any exaggeration, a really challenging budget year because of all the changes. It's a really new territory, but I know Nicole did a great job. It has been a very, very thorough process. I mean, we have dug in, and worked hard.
Thank you all. All right, I think we're ready to move on. So next Monday, we will hopefully have a seconded motion from the Finance Committee to approve this budget, and we'll have a quick, maybe 30-minute meeting. It shouldn't be less than that. to review the warning or to approve the warning, which is attached to this agenda. Gosh. It does not include the dollar amount for the school district budget, but everything else is in there. Yes, everything else is in there except for how to, join the meeting virtually.
Yep, and Jeff is gonna put that in before we would approve it. So this has been reviewed by the attorney, called the Secretary of State, and this is how it needs to be.
Any questions on that?
What are the, like, two scenarios that would play out this week that would cause a difference to what we're gonna see next week?
If nothing changes, everything will look exactly the same. If somehow the legislature says, we're gonna modify the implementation of Act 127, that could change our budget. If there's no cap for next year, then there's no benefit to our district for having the one-time money to repair the buildings and the facilities and the grounds and all of that. So that would be something we would not want to have in there because our taxpayers would be overpaying for that.
And the CLA is getting a lot of concern because it's just, the percentages are astronomical. I mean, they're worse in a lot of places than us. So that, and
That wouldn't change anything that we do. Because the CLA wouldn't have anything to do with Act 127 or our budget.
might change one of the charts if they decided to cap it, I guess.
They're not good
Okay.
I hope I'm proven wrong, but I don't see that.
In the next few days, the law's not gonna change, but we
We would get an
might get
indication,
an indicator that the law might change.
yes. And if it's gonna change, it has to happen in the next week.
ASAP.
They're gonna change the law in the next week.
It has to.
Or they might just start talking about it and put some fear out there and try to get budgets to be lower because it feels like there isn't.
I think all we need to
It's
do is-
really unlikely that anything is gonna change. However,
You might as well wait till the last minute, just.
tomorrow is the day that we will have more information.
So what I hear is we should go to Montpelier tomorrow and start like picketing or something.
Well, I don't know that that's gonna be helpful. What I think would be helpful is to watch the Ways and Means and Ed Committee joint session that they're having tomorrow afternoon. And it's gonna be on YouTube and easy for anybody to watch either while it's happening or tomorrow evening. And you'll be more in the know of what the discussion is and what folks are talking about.
The one thing that I thought that maybe could happen is that say eliminate the 5% cap or change that.
So many budgets have been built at this point and a number have already been approved by boards, right? Like, I mean, we're down to the wire. This is, I mean, boards are either approving the budgets this week or next week. So any change really has to happen quickly to get people, to get the information to where it needs to go. So I don't want to guess what changes could happen. I just want to make sure that nothing is going to change before we move forward so that we're not caught having to make any modifications.
Have we heard of other school districts doing this one time?
Yes. Like 70% or more of school districts statewide. Yes.
That's why the ed fund's gonna just go up.
Yeah. Okay, so questions on the warning?
I know.
Any questions on the warning? No questions on the budget, no questions on the warning. Okay. So moving on to the asset protection monitoring report. John,
Okay. So Nicole and I spent a good chunk of time. We're preparing this. Just to remind folks, we in 2022, we went through all of our policy governance policies. And we did quite a few modifications. And so this is 2.5, which is asset protection. And we did some modifications, got rid of some redundancies in 2022. So what I'm presenting to you today, I feel that we are meeting the principles and the standards of this policy. And so what I did is, offered what exactly the superintendent is not supposed to do. And they offered a little bit of background and some supporting information on, that we haven't done it and that they were meeting the standard in the policy. So the first one is change the organization's name or substantially alter its identity in the community. And I don't want to read this to you, but we haven't altered the name or in any material way altered the legal status or the mission or the goals or the priorities without you folks knowing about it. And we really haven't. In fact, I think we've tried to communicate, what the ends are and the priorities, the high level priorities are to the community every chance we can get. And again, maybe I just open it up for questions because this is a voluminous document. But endanger the organization's public image, its credibility or its ability to accomplish the ends. Again, we have not done that, and have been intentional in not doing that. And in fact, we've offered 2 monitoring reports over the last couple of years that have been accepted by the board, which we're making progress towards those ends. And I think that's a reflection of not endangering the organization's image, its credibility, or its ability to make progress towards meeting its ends. We record every video. We have meeting minutes, and I don't think there's anything in our annual report or in board work that would indicate that we have done that. Haven't closed any buildings. I interpret that in a very narrow scope, which is we haven't closed any buildings. I haven't unilaterally closed any buildings, haven't changed any grade levels, haven't materially made any adjustments, without the board knowing about it and approving it.
Sure. Several questions to send to you before the meeting. So,
Thank you.
not to give you a heads up, but on that one, it's kind of a repeat question I have on this report. Like I think the district should be reviewing the use of the schools on a recurring basis, and I want that policy always concerns me because when you look at it as just that narrow statement, do not close a building, it kind of says those are sacred, don't touch them. But the last part you said, without the board knowing it, suggests that we are reviewing the utilization of the schools. We are considering what grades should be at which schools, which lines, where the line should be in our towns, and trying to optimize the effectiveness and efficiency of our buildings. But I don't know if we're doing that. And if that policy is saying, basically giving you the indicator that we don't want you to do that, wait for us to tell you if you should be doing that, or are you doing that?
Well, I didn't mean to suggest anything. So if I did, I apologize for that. That isn't what I put into this. I really did think of it in a very narrow way. We look at the utilization of our buildings, every year, and try to optimize spaces. We haven't looked, just to be,
Because we
transparent.
haven't changed any lines or grades or
We have
anything,
not.
so they can't be perfect. Maybe they are, but it's been several years without any tweaking of the model. And I'm just wondering if that policy is making it feel like that's off limits.
No.
Okay.
No, I would say I did. We haven't looked at our town lines, but I think we should. I think that's, I mean, you know, where the lines are for your homeschool, I think we should take a look at that. You know, and then over the next at least 2 years. I think that's I didn't look at that as a part of this
You
policy.
have freedom to do that.
Yep, I would definitely bring to the board, obviously, because,
Is it in essence like that? It's in the spirit of that policy around using our schools effectively. And of course, at the time that we put these policies together, there was some sensitivity around closing the school because we just merged. And now we're kind of past that. I just want to make sure, maybe
that's fair.
at some point we could consider adjusting that policy to encourage looking at the lines and the grades.
Okay. I didn't look at it like that, but I can see why.
No, because the policy says don't close the school. I just wanted.
And I think that's the goal of the policy. We just reviewed them, we just redid them. I mean, we don't want the superintendent closing public schools, period. Right? That's a board decision. It is, however, the superintendent's job to do all the rest of it. So I think that's why it's specifically there as that, right? The rest of it, how everything functions day to day, where the lines are, all of that. That's the superintendent's
just
job to
figure out
make sure it's
why-
optimal,
Why haven't
because
we
it's,
made any changes?
this is the executive limitations. This is don't.
Right.
With that caveat, I mean, superintendent could bring a recommendation forward and the board could discuss it and there would be all sorts of things there, but if superintendent wouldn't be able to say, next year,
This is happening.
this is what's happening.
I have not looked at, you know, just, you know, coming out of COVID, just trying to, it's something that I think would be a good analysis. But I have not done it, to be honest with you, but something that I want to do. And this does not hinder me from doing that. Then, the facilities, you know, I offered information and I think some backup. And I talked to Edie about this and I did see your question. So, so we had these very, I would say, how do I put this? We had, so a company came in, it was, from the state of Vermont, and they went to spend a half a day in every building and they put together a report. I did not use that as evidence for a couple of reasons. One, there were some mistakes in the report, and Phil and I sent those to the company, and so they're not finalized. They're not in their final framework, and I didn't want to provide those as evidence until they're live and they're real. They're supposed to be done in February. My plan is to roll, because it's kind of voluminous, you know, because they put it in a computer program. So my plan is to share that with the facilities committee and then work on like a summary that we would offer to the board. But that's going to take a little bit of time. So, and I marked this because I went to a couple of these meetings, and so what the people from the AOE shared with me.
The question was never stated. Does everybody know what John's talking about? So the question is there any documentation about our facilities that doesn't come from within our district? And so the state just did a survey of all of the school facilities in the state. And that document is the one that John is referring to. And if ours isn't final yet, then that's.
Should be in February.
This is the one that got some media attention.
Yes.
2 years ago. So.
Yeah, different survey, but.
Yeah, that was like what age every building is. That's what got it some media attention. This one didn't get so much media attention. Probably when it's finalized, it will.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. there, a lot of people are scratching their head about them. I mean, I think the purpose was, it's a first step of a much longer process.
To understand how
Baseline data.
how much construction
Right.
construction funding the state needs, because there has been no school construction funding since 2007.
So, exactly. Now, I personally wouldn't use it as evidence for these because of, what the person that has been facilitating them has said, which is that their reports are a point in time and that they're a short analysis, very high level look, and there's no specifics, not supposed to be for specifics, but really like, that clock is old. You should replace it, but not like something is bad or good or unsafe. So anyway, the data that I shared is, we put a lot of work in our capital plan. And the finance committee and facilities committee, we went over that last year. And, we're gonna use, hopefully, some of these facilities, reports, in conjunction with that to say, do we need a deeper analysis from somebody else? We also have our HVAC, which is an engineering analysis that, I think is more beneficial. So, we have picked off the projects that are high level, the capital projects that need to be done right off. We've done that, over the last several years. And, I think pretty objectively, I've shared our stuff is old, but it's well maintained. So we've done the preventative maintenance and the maintenance to it, so it works. But it's getting more and more challenging sometimes to find parts, for some of these older systems. So, that's we need an upgrade in our HVAC systems. And so the other part is, more around insurance. Are we adequately, I'm just going to summarize it for you. So are we adequately insured for the value of our assets and for, on the liability side for our organization in the industry, and the people that we have in our system and the work that they're doing. So VISBIT, that what VISBIT does is every 5 years, they do an analysis of your buildings and your workforce. And they use industry standards for, probably 90% of the schools in Vermont, maybe more. And they give you a value, and your insurance is based on that. And then every year, based on, I think it's a CPI or an inflationary indicator, they add to that. So that's how they come up with what we have for our coverage. And Ken Canning, we all asked him to submit some evidence based on his expertise and analysis. Are we adequately covered? And he said yes, maybe even over a little bit.
So 125 million amount or value of our assets. You said that includes our buildings and our workforce.
Well, the part of the
second part.
The second part, but we also have liability insurance.
So our buildings are valued at 125 million.
Yep.
We put about $500,000 of improvements into them every year. Right?
Yep.
It's pretty modest.
It's really modest.
And is that
Building and ground.
is that 100? Is it in grounds, but not the value of the land, right? Just the improvements of the land.
It's like
athletic.
the buildings and the systems.
Is that a reasonable number?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, part of it is they don't anticipate that you're gonna have, lose it all. That'd be very, very rare. So there's they have their own algorithms that they use.
A couple of PCB tests.
So they have their own, algorithms that they use to generate that number. I think it's accurate.
Yeah.
Um,
They're reviewing the property values annually and then every 5 years coming in and doing site visits.
Thanks.
so I think, yes, I'm confident on this one.
Mhm.
I think Nicole is too, because they provided us with some pretty objective evidence. Allow unbonded personnel to access material amounts of funds. Nicole's more of an expert on this, but you know, we're defining material as 5,000. So bonded are people that are insured, that work for us, that are insured. So if something happened, we would be covered by it, and they're trained.
Correct.
And so, you know, I think we're definitely meeting this, this component of the policy, because we train everybody that handles money, not even material amounts, but anybody that does. And there's checks and balances in our system, which Nicole can talk about a little bit more, even with our bank account. That if somebody does something, it triggers an approval. So there's a lot of safety nets to make sure that John Alberghini, you know, isn't embezzling $100,000.
Yeah, the employees in the business office who handle cash, it's limited to 1 or 2 employees, 2 really being a second check if physical cash comes in. And the only time that does is like food service deposits. Those don't always flow through business office. Or if somebody wants to deposit, you know, money into student activities for a field trip. But the point John was making about bank transactions, anyone in business office, again, which is limited to a few people who have access to banking, what they can do is limited. Like their accesses are individually set and most of the time requires a secondary approval from me. If they're trying to upload a direct deposit for payroll, that has to be approved by me. So it's not frequent that cash passes through the business office.
The insurance is through Visbit or
Yes,
same, that
multi-line, yep. They handle specifically school districts.
And then number 7. So Jeff helped me with this. So Jeff just happens to be here. And he's amazing. I tell him that all the time, but he has a lot of expertise on cybersecurity. We're very fortunate that we have Jeff for sure. And so what I try to do is, you know, offer some background information and some information around what we do to protect the privacy and personalized data. We take it incredibly serious. Like this is something that we put a lot of attention into. And obviously now things have changed because almost everything is electronic, but we still have procedures for schools and personnel around pupil information and pupil privacy. And so what I did is I offered, you know, all of our procedures around educational records, FERPA, and then a lot of information around how we protect the infrastructure of our electronically. So to pull up your questions, go, we're ready.
I think, I mean, I have some as well experience in the field, but a lot of work is being done on the prevention and protection aspect of the data. But the detection piece of it, I didn't see anything that said we know when data is leaving, and are we monitoring? Are there alerts in place similar to the financials when somebody moves a large amount of funds, you get a trigger for it?
Yeah, so there's, again, a lot of our internal data that we hold at our own servers. We do have systems in place that monitor any data being, you know, that would be exported or, filtrated out of our systems.
And so we have a service, it's called Lumu, that we use to monitor any of that, and that alerts us of any anomalies throughout our systems. So it monitors our firewalls, all of our servers, our DNS traffic. There's a lot of technical, all of the Windows computers it monitors and all of that. We also have EDR solutions on all of our, local devices. So,
And has there been any loss of data?
no. But then let me just answer the other side of that. We do have a lot of our systems are controlled by third-party vendors, like Power School and others. And so one of our district procedures is that all of any outside vendor that holds any student data, we have to have a student data privacy contract with them. And that specifically states, all the things they can and can't do with the data, how they're going to store it, and they're required to notify us if there's any unauthorized access, things like that. And then it even inventories each piece of data that they're storing on each individual contract. We have like 140 of those contracts that get updated. We actually pay an outside service of lawyers that monitors that and make sure that those contracts are up to date. So
That's pretty significant that we have 140 different providers that are stewards of our personal data.
yes.
Right. And there's
I mean, some of it, some
There's
some of the
that much
personal
exposure
data is
on-
just like name and email address.
it's still
If they're
right,
using
it
Google to
still can
sign
get us into
into
trouble.
a website, we do a student data.
Every school district has that same exposure. As far as I can tell, the state and our districts are not, we're not checking ourselves very well. There's a financial audit that happens every year to make sure that we're not losing money, but there isn't anything that is even close to it to make sure that we're not losing our data. And then we have the right controls in place to make sure. I think everything you're doing is spot on, and it's probably leading the state. But there's nobody, and there's no evidence in the report to come back to it to say, this is good enough. And there's no evidence. And, somebody said that, here's a report that says nothing's lost. Your Lumen or whatever the tool is, was looked at. And because I think it only takes like that one time for the data to go away, or that one vendor that we trust, but for whatever reason goes away, and then we're in trouble. So I think we need to do a little bit more there, but I think it's more state than just individual districts. But I do think we're at risk.
I would like to add too, part of your other question that John shared with me was specifically that, like, are we being audited from outside vendor or, someone to look at our controls in place? And that is something that in order to meet our cybersecurity insurance requirement, there's a whole list of controls that we have to verify that we have in place. And we've met there's different tiers for levels of insurance coverage that we can get. Right now, we're at the highest tier that we can get based on the controls we have in place. This year, they've instituted, part of that is our insurance carrier hires an outside company to do a full audit and investigation of us, and that is happening next week. So
That's actually one of the best things about having cyber insurance is you do get forced to have those audits.
And that will be a full cybersecurity audit. They'll go through all the controls that were required to meet that top tier insurance coverage.
But that cyber insurance, what it does for us is if we do lose data or something bad happens and we get sued, or we have a significant loss, we have to cover it with insurance. So
thank you, Kevin, for sharing those. It at least gave us a couple minutes to try to do that on the fly would be hard. So thank you. It's one of the things I honestly respect about the people on the board is it's not like I'm gonna get you. It's more like, hey, we're just trying to make sure everything's going the way it should, and that feels good.
but I don't want you to spend all day. So.
But thank you for the heads up. It's super helpful. And I appreciate it. Then the last part is, we do a RFP audit. So there's no conflict of interest in our audit system. It's a completely independent organization. that follows, government standards and state standards as well for Vermont. So we're covered.
As part of an onboarding audit process, they look internally within employees based on the new client for independence issues also. So
So
Other questions on the report? We've been going as we.
I move to accept the 2.5 asset protection on the current school.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the report, give me a thumb or an eye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, looks like that is accepted unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, John and Nicole, for all the work on that. That was, and Phil, it's a really good detail. Report. Committee reports. Community Engagement Committee.
We met this morning. One of the major agenda items was developing an action plan for how community comments are responded to. So that's something that came up when we were setting our goals, which I just want to say has really been helpful for how we approach our meetings. And we basically are trying to think about not how to change the way community comments happen in our meetings, but how to make sure that the responses to those comments keep us all on the same page. So how to disseminate those responses to us, because it's likely that just because one person came to the meeting, it's likely that any one of us could have a community member ask us those same questions. And so just sort of creating some sort of protocol around that. We also started thinking about how a great way to think about it is it's a public response. Like it is a public question. So how do we create a public response? Where can those things live? And so we talked about Andrew and I meeting with Jeff in the future, sort of taking a look at our website and not really having like a live platform, but maybe a place where people can go to see answers to community comments that we receive. I think that, so the thing that came up in other business, it's really important for all of us to think about is board recruitment. And I think we are a little bit behind the 8 ball in really creating a strategy for that as a board as a whole, considering those signatures are due on the 25th. But really trying to set something up quickly that would work as an example for maybe how we could do a better job next year. So putting together a front porch forum post, something that could go on our website that just is a quick frequently asked questions, something that could be taken from the SBA examples, and making sure that we invite people who might be interested in serving on the board for some of the open seats that we have to the next board meeting. It doesn't give people a lot of time because that's on the 22nd, but it's a start and hopefully will serve as an example for next year. And so with that, I'm welcoming anybody to email me things that they might think would be important to have in a post to let people know about, like the time commitment, links to the link to the website so they can see past meetings, reminding people that you don't have to have kids in school. You have to be a person living in the community who cares about education and wants to take, serious effort and time to tackle some of these bigger issues. And then the last thing I wanted to just mention is trying to
you'll be hearing from us about organizing to be present at town meeting. I think is really important. So there are some towns that only have one representative and there are other towns that have several. And we can break up and we can be, you know, together and be available just to put our faces with this budget and our communities. So. Town meeting coming up.
Great. Thank you. Tara. EIB,
We need tomorrow morning.
great.
It's so smart to meet.
Lisa, finance and facilities meeting later this week. Something else you want to add?
No, I think that's about it.
Great, thank you. HR committee, we have found a consulting group to help us with a superintendent search for next year. So we have agreed on one. We're going to move forward with that, and we will be talking about that more as we get closer to actually doing the search. So, yeah, okay. Tears in our eyes, yes, lots of tears. Rab, any
Tears over there.
No, you see the grin? It's just a big
No,
grin. on
just a lot of gray hair.
it. Anything new on the round?
No.
Okay. VSBA legislative, we spent a good amount of time talking about that today. I want to add one thing. The VSBA has a policy governance maintenance program, which starts with a training on the 27th of this month. It's a half a day on a Saturday and then 5 drop-in sessions through June. They are highly recommending it for our district, and 3 or more people from our district is the same price. So this might be something that if we can get board members, maybe Andrew can do it with them, you know, maybe we can
Yeah,
have some
yeah.
kind of a.
We'll pay for it, so, I mean, if you
so
want to do it, that'd
board
be great.
members that are interested in getting deeper into policy governance and understanding it more and helping to plan to lead the district as we go forward with policy governance, this is a really great opportunity. Send an email to Mary, right?
Yeah.
In the next
Yeah.
couple days.
Yep, yeah,
So that we
let
can
us
figure
know
out
and
how many
we'll
people
set it
there
up.
are.
It's a great opportunity.
I'm strongly considering doing this, but I don't want to do it if I'm the only one. So this is one of those that I would be happy to be part of it. And it's getting a cohort of board members who are currently doing policy governance together and they have, where's my note on this? They have 2 people who are policy governance experts, who will be running it, and they are listed here somewhere on the website. I can send you more information.
So you said it was half a day on the 27th.
27th from 9 a.m. to 1 in Montpelier, and then drop-ins will be virtual, and they'll be held monthly, February to June.
And we'll pay your mileage too, so if you're traveling, you know, just submit how many miles and we will reimburse you for that too,
So,
if you're interested.
Bus goes there.
there is a bus, but we can.
We'll pay the
carpool
bus
in the park
ticket.
and ride. We could figure it all out.
Not free anymore.
No, they extended it.
Well, they did it.
Anything else? Yes, yeah. Since last meeting?
No.
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the December 18th meeting, please?
Accept the minutes from December 18th.
Thank you, Ethan. Heather, you second
Second it,
it?
yeah.
Great, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes, a thumb or an eye, please? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, unanimous approval, great, thank you. Any other business? Yes,
I've been thinking a lot about how to reframe a conversation that I've been a part of. I was really excited to hear about the electric buses, but transportation And I'm excited to hear that we're not maybe putting a new fuel tank in the ground. And maybe this is community engagement, but I was struck today at the volume of cars coming in here today specifically. And I think I've been thinking a lot about climate resiliency and climate change and how do we involve our community in that conversation? And I don't know where the board fits in here, but I'm just thinking, how do we talk broadly about changing the way we transport our students to schools? And so I think electric buses are important. I think encouraging people to use buses is important. And so I'm just wondering about that dynamic and if there is a place for more conversation about planning for the future, not a year or 5, but 5, 10, 20 years down the line. And does the board play a role in that at all?
Might invite, this just a quick suggestion, might invite Aaron Little to one of your community engagement meetings. And Ethan and talk about, what are some ways that we could do that. I think to me, that'd be a really great first step to get sort of the ball rolling.
I was thinking like, how does that become a district priority at some point?
I would also reach out to all of the principals to see which schools have a climate group that is led by students.
Yeah.
And understand where that is happening in our district as well.
Would you mind emailing me about this? Because I know there's been a student writing on Farmers Forum with them. And I'm using.
That was part of the class.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's a whole lot behind it.
I'm just saying. They don't. I think we should get literacy interventionists on the buses. And that way the like hour-long ride that they take is beneficial in some way. I think that is the big reason you see all these people driving to school. It's the time that their kids are on the bus.
I think that's,
Like the
that's
okay, I got places to be. We're gonna
Okay.
talk about this later after this.
Any other business? Other business?
Any more other business?
Right, I think there's 6 seats.
We have, so every year there are 5 seats that get reelected sometimes, or they get elected every year 5 seats of the 15-member board turnover. Often you have current board members who run for those seats. This year we have at least 3, possibly 4 who are not running again.
Right.
And we have 2 open seats in Jericho.
Right.
So we have the opportunity for 7 new board members starting in March. Yes.
Yes, but where I'm going with this is, what if only 2 of those seats fill? We just continue about our business and continue to like solicit people to give places.
Yeah, we would have to appoint from each town. Yes. Yep, for the rest of the year, and then they'd have to run.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you know where we stand? Right, I'm thinking, right, there's one in Huntington.
There's one in every.
Right. And there's one town with only one.
Yep.
I guess, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it gives me some pause to think like.
It's a risk. It's
Yeah.
a real risk, and it's something that we do need to be aware of. And if you would be willing to call all of the clerks to find out if they have petitions, that would be great. Like if somebody would be willing to kind of spearhead that, then we would understand.
The clerks
Or-
are selling the positions. I see it on social media and front.
Yeah, so, but they would also know how many people have stopped in to pick up petitions.
Yeah.
And that would be an indicator for us as to how much recruiting.
And it can't be the person, somebody who works in the district can't run for a seat. Right?
That's a conflict.
No, you cannot. That's the
But-
law.
a partner or a spouse of
Right.
the district employee can.
And an active board member can.
What?
And the board member.
And then you resign the seat that you had, take the other one, and then the board would appoint him. You could.
I'm not
It's
following your
a
logic.
strategy that defends against the write-in. You're a board member. You want to make sure that position gets filled by somebody who's serious and vetted. You could basically renew your 3-year term every year. You're not, there's nothing you can't do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask Mary to do that,
So
Yeah.
reach out
and
to
then I'll
her.
let you know.
That'd be great.
Right in.
Thank you.
Yep.
That'd be fantastic. Just to know how many.
Can you
Um,
let me hear? But then will you let all of us?
Yeah, I'll email the whole board.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great. Thank you. Last call, other business.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. A second? Great. Second, please vote by leaving, go blue, and have a great night.
Bye, everybody. Have a great night.
Hail to the
Thank you.